I called it. I called it last week. You know, when you're right, you're right. I'm a humble guy. I'm not trying to brag or nothing, but when you're right, you're motherfucking right. I called it right here last week in a tiny little segment that was at the end of the show that barely even mattered. It was about Cesaro leaving WWE. And in that conversation, I speculated on what the big announcement from Tony Khan might just be. And I just put it out there. Just my gut feeling is that Tony Khan was buying Ring of Honor. Well, 1 week later, look what we have. We have Tony Khan has purchased outright, bought, paid for, owns, lock, stock, and barrel the full company of Ring of Honor as announced on AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday. I almost second guessed myself. I started to doubt it. You know, I think most people were leaning towards streaming service, which would have been my number 2. And I was just like, wow, it takes a while to put something like that together. We would have heard rumors about it, that it was for sale. Hints that it was going to be Tony interested in buying. No, all that shit happened quietly. Actually, you know what? Because Ring of Honor also has a couple contracts left over, and they're planning on a reboot. I was second guessing it, but it seemed right there for the taking because inevitably this is still leading towards the streaming service, right? I don't think AEW is going to have their own streaming service. Certainly they could. They could build off of the infrastructure from the Ring of Honor streaming service that currently exists now. But honestly, I think the best route to go with this is to just sell your rights to some streaming company for millions of dollars. Because these platforms, I'm telling you, they're all, you can look it up. Every last one of these streaming services, Netflix, Disney Plus, Peacock, they are all in the whole billions. They are billions in debt just by trying to build a platform with the strongest content that's going to attract the most subscribers. So all of these companies are in a mad scramble for content. That's why Peacock, that's why NBC Universal made such a big move to acquire the WWE network for Peacock. Because that's going to draw people to Peacock. And they can put it, and it's not just that WWE is going to have game changer amounts of viewers going over there. That's going to pull them out of that $1 billion hole. It's more than just one show. It's your collection. It's your portfolio. It's being able to advertise. We got this. We got that. Like Peacock does. We got the Harry Potter series, they always say. Now they got WWE and they got whatever the fuck else. Peacock's actually pretty good if you poked around in there outside of the WWE network. But they're all in debt by billions. So to say that AEW is not going to get millions of dollars for streaming content is just, you just don't know what you're talking about. Tony Khan probably already had a multi-million-dollar streaming contract in his near future with just the AEW content. Now, it's not saying that he had one lined up already. That's saying that just by existing as AEW and having a content library, pay-per-views and back-issue TV shows for 3 years now, like, you already have a strong portfolio to sell to a streaming service. But to strategically go out and acquire a company like Ring of Honor with not just the streaming library, because the streaming library alone, I'm telling, or the content library, the back catalog, the archives, is enough bundled with AEW's content, man, that he just upped the value of AEW's streaming package so much. And if you think there won't be a demand for that back catalog Ring of Honor content, you are insane. We're talking about CM Punk's early career. We're talking about Bryan Danielson's early career. We're talking about Samoa Joe. We're talking about all these other guys that are on their Adam Cole. I mean, the list goes on of people that are on their roster now. Red Dragon, Young Bucks, that were in Ring of Honor at some point in time and using that library to your advantage to just do DVD packages, where you can put on little specials on your streaming site too, the best ofs and documentaries and all that shit. But in addition to that, and trust me, in today's streaming world, in today's media content market world, AEW continues to grow and continues to build value. I watch this shit like a hawk, okay? Like, I'm big into the streaming content and the media rights deals and all that kind of stuff. And the declining ratings for WWE and AEW not really being able to stay over 1 million ever, none of that's going to matter when these rights deals come back up again. They're going to get gigantic deals, both WWE and AEW. TV is not in a place right now where those companies can play hardball and be like, yeah, your ratings were down a little bit. We're only going to give you this. To have content, period, that's going to draw anywhere near 1 million people to turn on their TV and watch live. Do you know how rare that is in this day and age? People don't do that. Nobody does that. Sports are DVR proof, as they say. You need to pretty much watch a game live. You don't have to, but most people do. And wrestling's going to be one of those things. There's not a lot of other things that these networks are going to get exclusive deals on for 3 years, 5 years, where they're going to be able to trust that they're just going to get continuous live content that's going to draw near around 1 million people in or above or below. So mark my words, AEW is going to get a fat raise in their content bonus. Fat raise when their media rights deal comes up. And he knows that, and that's why he's buying up all this talent, because he knows A, he's letting talent go, and B, he's growing his fucking company's value like a motherfucker. They got this video game coming out, and if you don't think that's going to make $1 bajillion for that company too, dude, I'm telling you, Tony Khan's got it right. But besides the media rights, the content library, the streaming, which I think was his number one driver, absolutely, in buying Ring of Honor, you also get that rich legacy. You get the history. Okay? Few companies have been around, have that kind of, even, I don't know that WCW was even, since it went from NWA to WCW, even lasted as long as Ring of Honor had. It was a relatively short period of time. 10, 11, 12 years, something like that. Ring of Honor has such a rich history, not just because it's been around so long, but because of the epic matches that it's had throughout its history, because of the faces, the names, the careers that were built and catapulted out of Ring of Honor onto a mainstream platform, be it WWE or TNA with Samoa Joe. buying Ring of Honor was a baller play. It was incredible value to WWE or to AEW. I'm sorry. Apparently, it wasn't incredible value to WWE as they passed on it, or Tony Khan outbid them, one of the two, as they were definitely both offered the rights to Ring of Honor. So what do you do with it at this point? Obviously, we've kind of beaten the streaming service part of this to death. What do you do with Ring of Honor? And we've already kind of touched on how this is going to grow AEW's size, their value, both to networks, to streaming services, just as a company, their net worth. Now they own back issue products. This is shit that Disney goes out and buys other companies, right? Fox and that kind of thing. Star Wars, they acquire Star Wars, Marvel. WWE, was making a habit of that for a little while, but it's a baller move to make just a couple years into your company, and it's really going to grow. But the question is, obviously, the streaming content, is he going to keep Ring of Honor alive? Now, certainly this has been tried multiple times in the history of professional wrestling where a company's been acquired and the effort was made to keep it alive. WWE did it with WCW for a night, then Buff Bagwell killed it. They tried it with ECW. It lasted for a couple years. Really, in its actual prime, only about a year, and then it just became, WWE. Essentially, it became fucking main event. Does AEW see value? Is there value? Is there a point in keeping the brand alive as a promotion, not just in the history books in your back catalog, but as a active working promotion? It's a hard question because Ring of Honor, towards its last days, was not the biggest draw in the world. And quite frankly, you got Rampage that's not doing great numbers. It's great for its time slot. The network's happy with it, and I guess that's the most important thing. But it's not like setting the world on fire. And Dynamite's a fantastic show, in my opinion, but it struggles to stay at or above 1 million. I mean, it does. It gets there, but it's not... You can't see it growing. It's not like steady staying at 1.1 million and then inching its way up to 1.2 million. So, can you launch another brand and sustain it? Well, I think you could. Now, you'd have to be smart as fuck about its budget, because I think NXT even operated at a loss for WWE. So you don't want to just go out there and just run it like a full-fledged promotion necessarily. Here's what I see are some things that can be done with Ring of Honor. Now, this is just me spitballing at this point, because I think we all can agree and know that the streaming is coming. And it's just a matter of time, and that's the best use of the library of Ring of Honor. But for the active brand, what they can do, because they've been doing this thing with Dynamite where they will film Rampage after it, or other weeks, Rampage will be on its own. It'll be live, or it'll be close to live. It'll be filmed on a separate day in the same town still, usually, in the same building even. And I know they got Dark and Dark Elevation, and one of those I think they're doing at the old, the building in Orlando now, the old TNA gimmick, where they rent out the studio there. Here's what you do, okay? You take Rampage, and you film Rampage, and you film one of the Darks, and you film Ring of Honor. And you film them all in one taping, then you do Dynamite, and you do one of the Darks on the other Dark, or maybe some other projects or whatever during the Dynamite taping. So they're all roughly 3-hour shows is what I'm getting at. all you got to do is, I mean, WWE did it with ECW. You know, they had a big black, like, I went to one, actually. I went to one live that was a SmackDown / ECW. And they just basically drop a big black tarp over, not a tarp, but, you know, the cloth, a curtain, whatever. Sparkly curtain. Looked fancy. It was all sparkly. You drop a curtain in front of the SmackDown set, and then you just move the ECW set out in front of it. It was a smaller set. It was just an entrance way and like a screen. You know, you could theoretically just use the same set as Dynamite or Rampage even, but why? Why go there, right? Just drop like a big fucking, drop a giant screen, because that's all Ring of Honor's entrance really was ever anyway. It was just a giant Tron, right? So you just drop a wall of screens in front of the Rampage entrance, and you go out and you swap out the ring apron, same ring, everything. You swap out the fucking apron, the colors, whatever, the ropes. Make it Ring of Honor. And you use that as a developmental of sorts. You essentially make it your NXT. If it was me, that's exactly how I would do it. I wouldn't want to waste money. I would pair it with Rampage so that I'm not wasting money trying to run separate shows, right? We're still spending the same budget, really. There's not a lot of extra production. You know, you got to switch out the stuff. You know, you buy a new setting. You know, like I said, you move the Trons. You get a big curtain in front of the Rampage set. Put a big Tron in front of it. Switch out the ring stuff. It's cost effective if it's filmed with Rampage. You don't got to do it that way, but I would do it that way because you're not spending any extra money. You just film it while you're there. Next, AEW only does 4 pay-per-views per year. You could up your pay-per-view income, pay-per-view value. Now, of course, there's production costs and everything too, but I think if they could build Ring of Honor up to the point where their pay-per-views were as big as takeovers, they would get buys. So if AEW's pay-per-views are doing 200,000 buys roughly right now, which they are, then you could expect 50,000 buys on a Ring of Honor if you're promoting it through AEW, couldn't you? At $50 a pop, I mean, you're making $2.5 million off that pay-per-view still, you know? Worth doing. You can do it without losing money. You sign all the talent to AEW contracts. That's the next move. That way you can keep them fluid. You don't need separate contracts or a separate company. It can all be under one parent, a wrestling company. And that contract gets signed with them no matter who you're with AEW, whether you're in Ring of Honor or where you start out. Maybe when a guy comes in, he gets started in Ring of Honor. Very similar to NXT. Maybe, you could do it any number of ways. So here's how you go about doing that. When you're ready, you do an ECW one night stand style pay-per-view relaunching Ring of Honor with a bang. We're back, baby. And you make it both about the new talent that will be there, the current talent that was on the roster before they folded, and the historical talent. If you do it a one-night stand style of show to relaunch them, you bring in CM Punk to the show. You bring in Bryan Danielson. You bring in Samoa Joe, who's a free agent. Adam Cole. Red Dragon. You get all of these guys on the show, but then you also bring in, the Ring of Honor talent that was on the roster before they ended up folding. You got a Jay Lethal under contract. You do FTR versus the Briscoes at that show. FTR comes in as AEW Invader saying, you do that. It's wrestling tropes, but just imagine FTR comes out dogging on Ring of Honor, and then the Briscoes come out. Boom. So you launch it with that, and then it's new. You rebrand it. You take some of the guys that are being underutilized, not getting enough TV time, whatever the case may be. They're stuck where they are. Like a Brian Cage, his contract was just renewed, and everybody was kind of baffled as to why. This is probably why, right? Move a Brian Cage over to Ring of Honor, he can be top of the main card or top of the mid card, bottom of the main event over there. He could be in a way bigger place, or at least be featured way more on Ring of Honor. You keep him on that brand. You move Jay Lethal back over there. You hire a guy like a William Regal to be your fucking booker. Don't book the shit if you're Tony Khan. If you not have enough time in your day, you are overstretched as it is. Hire somebody that you trust and oversee them to a certain extent, but just let somebody run Ring of Honor for you. The creative of it, the booking. And that guy's William Regal, in my opinion. Bring William Regal in, put him in charge. You could bring in some of the other, like a Ryan Katz from NXT. And who's the other guy that they recently just released from there? Like, you could really bring in the best that NXT had before they were gutted and combine it with all the free agents that you have your pick of the litter. You pick the top ones. I mean, of course, I would recommend bringing back your Matt Tavens and your Briscoes and your legacy Ring of Honor guys. You mix them up with some new talent and some fresh talent coming in off the street. And yeah, you got your dark and your dark elevation that you can use for your NXT developmental, and that's how Tony has been using it to scout talents and that sort of thing. And he can still bring in guys. I mean, those can continue to be mainly vehicles to fluff win-loss records, to give people reps on the main roster that need reps, like a Jade Cargill, that need the in-ring experience still. That's what you use those shows for. And to get eyeballs on people. Yeah, you bring in people to do jobs, and if you like the way they look, maybe they get moved over to Ring of Honor to actually, like, Ring of Honor is not necessarily the place. I mean, it could be, but I wouldn't see it like that as necessarily the place where you bring in guys to scout to just do jobs. You can a little bit. There's still going to be job guys for Ring of Honor too, but that's more for just developmental, up and coming, or guys that just need more space to go do their thing. And that's how I would do it. I would keep it cost effective. I would keep the talent fluid and interchangeable. I can always move guys to Ring of Honor. I can move guys from Ring of Honor to AEW. I wouldn't do it a lot because you still want to kind of separate it and make it a big deal. You want to make it at least as big of a deal as when guys would get called up to main roster from NXT. And, you throw out a few pay-per-views a year for them if you can make them as big as a takeover. And you got guys like William Regal behind the scenes. Just, you bring on a Samoa Joe, whether he can still work or not. You bring him in to be the face of the brand, whether it's commentary or a commissioner even, or even just a backstage agent. Whatever the fuck, man. Like, that's the best use of Ring of Honor. I know there's people listening that don't like the idea of putting it with Rampage or something, just because, it's going to kind of look the same and everything, and it will to a certain extent. The ring is going to be the same. The arena setup's going to be mostly the same. Change out the colors, the set, the apron, the ropes a little bit, but you do that to be cost effective, because you can't. It won't be if they try to just book its own shows. You're gonna have trouble drawing people. You're gonna lose. You're gonna be spending money on that building just to do that show. There's no point in doing it that way. And I don't think you want to downgrade Ring of Honor to the place in Orlando where they're just doing all the elevation tapings, right? The sound stage gimmick, Put them in front of live crowds. Put them in arenas. you could really revamp Ring of Honor. I think with the one night stand level reintroduction, with a Punk, with a Bryan, with a Samoa Joe all appearing, with FTR versus the Briscoes on that show, with all of that shit, you have set up Ring of Honor to be successful. At least at that point, now people are going to be intrigued to tune in and see. I guess that's the other big catch to it, though, right? It's TV time. That's the other third thing there that you're going to need, you know. Can be cost effective as you want it to be, but where are you going to put it? You're going to put it on YouTube? Do they still have in their deal to hold the TV slots on Sinclair Broadcasting? You know, Sinclair's not losing money by having Ring of Honor on TV. They're losing money by having to run shows and keep guys under contract and all of that shit. The TV times, they own the stations. So they can easily keep Ring of Honor on TV and just not have to pay for it anymore. Pay a rights fee to have on TV will cost them way less. You're just paying for content at that point. Cost way less than having to maintain the rosters and book these venues and sell tickets and all that. But are they going to want to do that? And even then, like, those TV times were all sporadic. You know, it was this time in this state, and this time in that state, and this region, and some regions don't even get it on TV. And it was a big fucking mess, right? So all of that's to be determined, but I think if you're going to keep Ring of Honor alive as a brand, the only way to do it is to pair it up with Rampage. You can do it with Dynamite, but then what's Rampage? Rampage plus a couple darks, who cares, right? You almost like can double the excitement of the draw, and I think you can keep Ring of Honor a strong brand. You strategically move a couple top guys there. I'm not talking like Punk or Bryan, but you have Samoa Joe there, and you can move. You know, I don't want to speculate on what kind of talent could move there necessarily, but you move a couple of your top guys there and put a lot of the young guys there, and you just see what happens. You build it, and you got that brand, and it's there. And, hey, at least you tried. I mean, if it flops like ECW did and everything else ever did, but you're just not spending that much extra money. There will be costs. There's always costs to produce extra TV. But theoretically, if you can keep those costs low enough, you just make it back on the rights fees, and then bada bing, bada boom. So that's what I think is going to happen. That's what I think should happen. That's exactly what I would do. That's my blueprint for you, step by step. That's my blueprint on how to do this thing. But we shall see, and it'll be interesting to see if in the future they pick up any other content. You know, because it's possible that in the next 5 years we see an NWA come up available. And, you know, even a little company that could, TNA, Impact Wrestling, could theoretically be up for sale at some point. And if you got an AEW that owns Ring of Honor, NWA, and now TNA's entire history, TNA's library, Impact's library, that's a huge get, too, if that ever comes up for sale. Then WWE almost becomes the company that owns all the old shit, right? Because if AEW ends up owning Ring of Honor and Impact, WWE's not going to have any of the footage for any of the guys coming up nowadays because they don't have guys from WCW anymore, or ECW. All that shit's gone. Those are all legends now. Where did all the new guys come from? Either their own developmental in NXT, or they came from fucking Ring of Honor, or they came from, TNA. That's it. Oh, wrestling's beautiful. I love this shit. I get geeked about this. I could talk about this shit the entire episode. I really could. I could just go on and on. But I won't. That's all I have to say, I guess, for now on the Ring of Honor subject. But huge news in wrestling. Groundbreaking, giant shakeup. It's fun to see. I love this shit. Hey, thanks for checking out that clip. Don't forget to check out other clips here on the channel. And while you're there, throw a like, throw a subscribe. And don't forget to check out full episodes each and every Sunday of the Pro Wrestling Podcast.